Welcome to the ICT Pulse podcast. I'm Michelle Marius, your host, and the editor and publisher of ICT Pulse, the online platform where we discuss ICT issues from a Caribbean perspective. Today's guest is Khelawan, co-founder and chief operating officer at Teleios Systems, a software development firm headquartered in Trinidad and Tobago that specializes in and offers cloud, mobile, and automation solutions. In this episode, we discuss how Teleios Systems started, some of the trends in the market, and the company's medium-term goals. However, more importantly, and noting that having access to suitable software development expertise is critical to such a business, Kevin shares with us how Teleios Systems has been addressing that challenge, which not only benefits his firm, but also the Trinidad and Tobago software development industry. Enjoy. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. Pleasure to spend some time with you this morning.
So, Kevin, in my introduction, I said that Teleios Systems specializes in cloud, mobile, and automation solutions. But what does that mean, and how are those services delivered?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, what we mean by that is we essentially build our solutions in the cloud. So that means leveraging cloud technologies and then deliver those solutions in the form of services through subscriptions or whatever. So essentially, our customers are generally not buying infrastructure. They're not buying hardware, or they're not putting out CapEx to buy applications. They generally will buy a service. That's it in a nutshell. There's variation to that, obviously, depending on customer need, etc. But by and large, that's what we mean by that.
So as of this year, Teleios should be about 21 years old. First, what drove you and your other co-founders to set up the company?
At one level, all three of us had started Teleios, myself, Bevel Wooding, and Ronald Hines. All three of us, at one level, would have had desire, interests in having our own business, and specifically in the technology area. We would have met each other in church. We all attended the same church. We still do up to this day. And in sort of talking through our individual interests and so on, we felt that getting together and starting a software company was something that we were supposed to do. It's something that we felt essentially led by the Lord to do. And so we did that. 21 years ago, we left our respective jobs, which I laugh now because that resulted in some interesting things. But we left our respective jobs and we started Teleios Systems with a mindset around software to run the world. All of us felt that a global software company was what we were interested in. And so the software to run the world tagline was sort of defining and declaring our intent, establishing the mindset, mentality, and philosophy that would help drive the build out of Teleios and our people over the period of time.
And granted, of course, as we said, the company is about over 20 years old now. And it would be interesting for us to discuss briefly what was the focus of the company when it started and how it has evolved over the years.
Yeah, so when we started and we did that thing, like I said, to leave our jobs, we had a friend who was running an actuarial company, and he was talking to us about a particular need in the space around pension administration. And we felt, okay, this looks like this could be the opportunity for us to start this company. And we would build this pension administration system and everybody would buy it and it'd be super fantastic. And so we did. We built it. All of that went according to plan, except basically nobody bought it.
Oh, okay.
That was a slight little hiccup in that plan.
I guess so. Clearly, that could have been certainly moments of panic, because here it is that one would have invested time, I guess, a certain amount of money, and recognizing that one may have left their, relatively well-paying jobs to take a chance on this business. I'm sure there may have been a few sleepless nights.
Well, so there were lots of sleepless nights, though to be honest, the sleepless nights were not driven by worry. It was just we had work to do. And of course, yeah, I mean, the work that you were doing was connected to how soon you could get this product out, and obviously how soon you could start selling it, etc. So in the early days, yeah, there were lots of sleepless nights, but they were work-driven sleepless nights.
Okay.
As opposed to panic. And we never panicked, honestly. We never panicked. But it were very interesting, quote unquote, interesting times as we sort of navigated that space. But after that, we continued. I think one of the biggest challenges in a sense was maintaining the focus on software development, because, you started a business, you have to earn revenue. And there was lots of opportunity to move away from software development and maybe sell hardware, or in those days, installing networks for people, etc., etc. Those were opportunities that were really around quite a lot. But we resisted those to continue to focus on building our capability and capacity around software development.
And I guess, how has that industry changed over the years?
In Trinidad, well, at one level, it has not. In a whole lot. Historically, in Trinidad and in particular, I would think perhaps across the region, though I think Jamaica might be slightly different in that in Trinidad in particular, there were not a whole lot of what we might call pure play software companies. We have a lot of technology companies, but we don't necessarily have a lot of software companies. And I think that's generally the case in the Caribbean. I would believe Jamaica might be a little better in that regard, in that they may have more pure play software companies in Jamaica. But generally speaking, at the level of what companies start up to do, there's not a whole lot of software or pure play software companies around. But in terms of just general industry change, I think the biggest change that's impacting the industry today is the very same cloud that I would have mentioned earlier, is as more and more people, companies, vendors, etc., move to the cloud, the industry has had to respond to that in the sense that much of our technology companies would resell other people's technology. And before the cloud became what it is, you were selling on-premise things. You were selling servers and machines and licenses and all those types of things, and it worked nicely. But the cloud changed that a lot, and so that has had a real impact in the industry in general.
And just looking at the fact that what Teleios Systems does is pretty specialized. And as you said, there may not necessarily be several companies doing similar things to what you all do. But what is the market like for your services within the region?
Yes, it is. At times, it could be difficult. And let me sort of try to be clear about what I mean by that. I think one of the big challenges that we have, and I would say pretty much any local, and again, this is, I think, particularly Trinidad. I won't speak for the other countries, but one of the challenges that we have here is that we tend to prefer foreign solutions, just sort of like in general. We tend to prefer foreign solutions. So one of the big challenges is being able to fight that, the perception that the foreign solution is better and so on. And that is, being able to do that, especially in a software context, is a particularly special challenge. Over the years, we've been able to get good customers, both here in Trinidad and across the region, and so that has been good. It hasn't been easy, but we were able to sell our software as a service here to some of the larger companies here, as well as in some of the other Caribbean territories. And that continues up to this day. I mean, we're now doing even more work in the Caribbean. So it takes time, but we've been able to develop the kinds of software that have appeal and be able to deliver services on top of that software, as I said, both here in Trinidad and across the region.
And your customers tend to be large corporates or particular industries?
So we would have started off with after the pension thing, when one of the next sort of big things that we did, which was quite a number of years ago, was our mobile messaging platform, which at the time when we built that, it was really the first in the Caribbean, definitely the first in Trinidad, and really the first across at least the English-speaking Caribbean. And so we were able to work with the mobile phone companies here in Trinidad and also in the Caribbean to deliver services for them on top of our platform. So one set of customer base would look like the phone companies, and then we were able to move into mobile banking, and so we work with quite a number of the larger banks here in Trinidad, and also a lot of the Trinidad banks are across the region, and so we do work with them there. And we're now doing more and more work with governments in the region. So delivering e-government solutions. We're working with a couple of countries right now, and also partnering with the CTU to continue to advance that. So there's that type of spread for us, from telecoms, finance, and government. And generally speaking, our customer base resides across those areas.
And granted that you mentioned that one of the areas that one is seeing the biggest change is the impact of cloud. But what other sort of trends are you seeing within the region across the space that in which you operate? And are your customers, like, for example, driving demand in certain areas, or one may be finding that you have to lead them to adopt cloud or mobile or consider automation solutions?
At one level, that's a sort of combination of things. Cloud, in and of itself, people tend to be familiar with it as a consumer. So most people would be, familiar with cloud, even though they may not call it that, because, they're looking at Netflix, or they have a Gmail account, or they're using Uber, or whatever it is that they're doing. And all of those are sort of cloud-driven things. On the corporate side, more and more IT managers and CIOs and so on are definitely looking at and adopting cloud solutions, because it reduces a sort of costs on their side in terms of the just CapEx and management costs of implementing things. But there's also a lot of uncertainty around it, particularly with regard to things like data sovereignty, etc. People tend to think about, well, somebody else has my data and it's not in the country, and so on. And so there'll be challenges in addressing that, mainly because people don't necessarily understand some of it. And some of it, are good questions for people to ask. And in some cases, we have to find ways to address some of those concerns. And we've had to do that in the past, especially when working with the government.
So where would you see Teleios systems within the next 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years is a really long time away in terms of technology, in terms of software.
Just 5 years then. 3 to 5 years.
Well, so for example, one of the things that we're doing now is we've built a what's called a low-code platform, basically allowing you to develop solutions, and in this case, solutions in the cloud, without having to write a lot of code, without having to do a lot of programming. So one of the big things that we are focused on is continuing the build out of that platform, which we use internally a lot, and we have customers who are running solutions that run on top of that platform. So definitely over the next 3 years, we are continuing to drive that platform's capability, one, and two, leveraging that platform in the kinds of solutions that we build for customers now as well. So the 3-year view is the continued build out of our QuickWorks product, that's what it's called, QuickWorks. Not only in terms of what the platform can do, but driving the amount of solutions that the platform is supporting. So that's definitely a focus over the next couple of years. I expect inside of that period, well, obviously cloud will continue to dominate, but there are a couple of other things that we are also quite interested in and looking at how we engage, which would be things like artificial intelligence, how we leverage data, how we do analytics, predictive analytics, and so on. Those are really important areas, and we are constantly looking at, what does that mean for us as a Caribbean or Trinidad and Caribbean technology company? What does it mean for the kinds of solutions that we are building? What does it mean for the platform that we're focused on? What does it mean for our customers? I mean, so if I think about, a 3-year period, those would be two of the broad areas of emphasis and focus for us.
And recognizing that you all are essentially a software development firm, and certainly looking at building solutions for your clients primarily based on software, how easy has it been to secure and maintain those types of skills within the company? I guess whether or not the market has enough developers, etc.
Yes, that is a very good point. So yes, that's a challenge. What we've done over the years is we recognize that challenge, for instance, which would have been, let's say that was very early on. One of the things that we decided to do was to really start partnering with the universities here and starting to talk to them about some of how we saw the world, what we're looking for from young software developers coming out of school. And we started a program that is running till today, something called Teleios Code Jam. And Teleios Code Jam is focused on working with university students. And so today we basically have students from across the different universities in Trinidad, working with university students to help them engage in what we call real-world software development projects in a collaborative fashion. And the Teleios Code Jam program, which actually right now is running, it runs generally the second half of the year, helps those students to build a software team. We generally have themes that we emphasize each year. That we come up with problem sets and have the students look into those problem sets, also come up with their own, and get together in teams and basically build their solutions and present those solutions to each other, and of course to the Teleios Code Jam judging panel, etc. And it has been a real success for us over the last. I think we're in our 12th year now. I'm between 10 and 12 years now we've been doing it, and as a result of that, we've definitely impacted quite a lot of students. And a number of them work for us now. And I think very importantly, we have built a real relationship with the universities. And as a matter of fact, in UWI, they have structures. They have alumni in terms of Teleios Code Jam alumni. They've established clubs and so on to facilitate students coming through and participating in Teleios Code Jam. So UWI actually does quite well every year in terms of the competition part of the thing. And so Teleios Kojam is one of the initiatives, one of the things that we thought would help not just provide Teleios with software developers, but really help the software developers, the students coming out, regardless of where they were going to work or what they were going to do, who they were going to work for, etc. That part didn't matter. The thing that was important for us was that we started to get our students coming out to the university systems with real world perspective, real world understanding, experience, exposure, learning how to work together, learning how to balance their time between, of course, the schoolwork that they have to do and working on sometimes tough projects that they needed to complete as part of the competition.
Yes.
And so we're really very pleased with the impact that has had over the years. As a matter of fact, we won a global award for it from Microsoft a couple of years ago. And so while we started off from saying, look, we need to get people coming in who could sort of hit the ground running, but the Teleios Kojam has sort of gone beyond our specific need to really ideally impact the lives of these young developers coming out. We benefit from it in that we do have some of them working here, but most importantly, the students benefit. I mean, so whatever job they end up in after that, it has all the feedback we've had over the years from all the students is that it has been a very positive experience for them. So that in and of itself does not necessarily address or mean that you have lots of developers coming out. It doesn't mean that. But I think TCJ, as we call it, has definitely played its part in helping drive the awareness and the ability for students to be better prepared, facilitate their creativity, and so on for when they graduate and they start working. For us, we have a real focus on our people. The culture in Teleios is very much focused on the growth and development of our people. And so we provide an environment that allows for their creativity to be expressed, an environment for rich collaboration, teamwork. And so we've done well in terms of the people that work here. Our retention is really very, very, very good. And we continue to work with the universities. We continue to encourage people to write code, learn about software development, and facilitate this is sort of the general advance of the industry from that standpoint.
And just two more questions. I know that we're running short on time. You're quite busy, and it's great that we're able to just get a quick slot in your schedule today. What was the best piece of advice you have received with respect to leading a company?
I think one of the things would be not to hold on too tightly to your ideas. And it sounds counterintuitive, but it's not. It doesn't mean don't have ideas, and it doesn't mean don't pursue those ideas, but you have to be willing to listen to others. You have to be willing to take input, take new perspective. That's really, really important. You want to have diversity in terms of perspectives to help you do the thing that you actually are trying to do. So I would say, to me, that's one of the biggest things that I would have learned in building and leading Teleios is to be able to accept input, to allow people to challenge your ideas, to allow people to be creative, which at the end of the day helps drive Teleios forward.
Excellent. And certainly that is true in terms of, not being too wedded to your ideas.
Yep.
And the final question I have is, what advice would you give to a fledgling Caribbean tech business?
I think that the biggest thing is perseverance. One of the challenges that we have when starting a business, technology business, or any business, but technology business, is that we have notions in our mind about how long something is going to take. And I could guarantee it's going to take longer than you think it's going to take, and it's going to take more effort than you think it's going to take. So if it was one piece of advice, it would be perseverance. Prepare to go for the long haul. There's generally no shortcut to success, at least not to meaningful, long-lived success. There isn't any shortcut to that. So you have to be willing to press hard and to persevere, and to inside of that perseverance is surmounting the obstacles, dealing with the setbacks. It requires that you're determined to persevere to the end.
That's some great piece of advice. So again, thank you so much, Kevin. It has been a really wonderful to talk to you and to get some insight on Teleios and this whole software development scene. I hear it is that this company has been around for 20 years. So I guess you have certainly seen some of the trends come and go. And I gather from what you've said, you're looking forward to the future.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the ICT Pulse podcast. You can find links to some of the things we talked about on our website, ict-pulse.com. If you like this episode, please show your support by leaving us a review on iTunes, as it will help others find the show. You can email us at info@ict-pulse.com or drop us a note on our Facebook page, facebook.com/ICTPulse, or via Twitter @ICTPulse. We hope you'll join us again for our next episode. Take care.